Welcome to episode 56 of the Virtual Velo Podcast. My name is Chris Schwanker. Emma Martin is in rehearsals for the Cycling Esports World Championships. We're on the ground here in Abu Dhabi, and we promise to bring you content. And if you're interested in the Esports World Championships, you're going to consider this essential listening. I was able to catch up with the UCI Cycling Esports consultant, and we spoke about a broad range of topics around the live final in Abu Dhabi, including the anti-doping controls, the weigh-in procedures, and how they're assigning trainers to the athletes on the stage. In addition to the future for cycling esports once the event is behind us. I also was able to track down Matthew Smithson from MyWhoosh's in the lobby of the hotel, and we spoke about a lot of the same things, but also got his perspective on the legitimization and the professionalism of cycling esports and where the sport will go after these world championships are over. I hope you enjoy the interviews, and I hope you enjoy the race, and looking forward to it as much as I am. All right, so we're here in the venue with the UCI's esports coordinator, and I know this has been a long time coming. The first live event final is something that's been on our radar for a really long time. And I know that this is the fourth version of the UCI Cycling Esports World Championships, and it's the first live event final. The tender was recently awarded to MyWhoosh's, changed from Zwift. Was the live event final a priority for that tender process?
I think the live event final was a priority just to grow the discipline. I wouldn't say that it was a prerequisite to award the tender, and it certainly wasn't a prerequisite to respond to the tender, but everybody in the sport, including publishers and those who responded, were eager to host a live final. So I think it's important for the growth of the discipline to have this event and to bring all the athletes together. We can control a lot more of the variables that esports suffers from, that the industry is catching up with right now. And it's just great from a celebration standpoint to see the sport bring the athletes together. So I think it was important for everybody, publishers included. I wouldn't say it unduly influenced the selection of the tender process, because everybody agrees that a live event like this is fantastic.
We're hoping that it's going to be fantastic. And, cycling esports is a global sport. There are people from all over the world that are now meeting here in Abu Dhabi for the live event final. This is your first time in the arena. You've done a tremendous amount of planning. How do you feel that the planning is going in this as a grand event as you had envisioned?
Certainly, yeah. I'm excited for the athletes to walk in for the first time. I think they'll be pretty excited. Obviously, we had the Olympic Esports Series last year in Singapore. Many of the athletes were astounded by the stage and the lights and the cameras and all the fun stuff that come with live events. And I think our partners with MyWhoosh's have done a fantastic job leveling this event up one more notch too. So, like you said, a lot of work by a lot of folks have gone into this one, and we're still 28 hours away from it, so work left to do yet, certainly. But we're in a great position here now, and I think it's going to be a fantastic event. We're very excited.
What is the fan going to be most excited about?
The fan visiting, watching the event, you mean?
Watching live or just, the stream of the event?
I think the race format that Whoosh has put together has really pushed the envelope of what to expect. We can see stage one tomorrow, for example, with the kind of F1 style qualification of the sprint pathway will be very exciting. I think you're going to see some really dynamic racing. We mentioned on the podcast, obviously, I find the race the most exciting part of it all myself, the athletes' competitiveness. I think we're going to see some cool tactics unfold, some different strategies unfold for a lot of these athletes. Unlike during the semifinals or previous editions, they'll be able to look to their left and their right and see how the other athletes are feeling, and maybe a bit of gamesmanship from that front. I think if you visit the venue or if you're watching at home, you'll be impressed with all of the show that goes with it. The stage is very impressive. The graphics that will be behind the riders, the real data. One of the benefits of esports is how much data we have available to us, and the way the team has put that data out for the audience to digest is very impressive. I think everything about the venue and the event that we're putting on is going to be a sight to behold, certainly.
So you talked about how that data is going to be put out there for the fans and the enthusiasts to digest. Can you elaborate on that?
Cycling or sport holistically, in modern times now, we have data. Everybody has a Whoop strap perhaps, or some other data tracking metric. But what cycling esports gives us is the power data is readily available to review. You can promote it. So MyWhoosh has done a fantastic job of building in a facility that will allow the visitor or the viewer in the venue to see an athlete's power denoted through LED lights on their station. So as an athlete puts out more power, you'll see their LED lights go up. Again, that's something that other disciplines may not have the ability to do. Obviously, peak stationary is very helpful in that, but also just having that real-time data second by second is something that's unique to esports. So you'll see all of the traditional data metrics on the screen, both in the stream and in the venue: power, heart rate, cadence, all the normal numbers we're used to seeing as esports viewers. But I think we can use that data in some creative ways in the venue. Like I said, with those LED bars as a good example, as an athlete puts out more power, their station's going to glow a bit brighter, and we'll just cue the audience in to look at that athlete. Perhaps we can see a sprint coming just a millisecond before you may know it's coming, type of thing.
That sounds pretty cool. I'm looking forward to seeing that. Yeah. Then there's also, obviously, there's a lot underneath that data that UCI has to pay very close attention to. Right, we're here in a live event, so there's no, the authenticity is there. Does the sport have to be live in order for us to have that authenticity going forward?
I don't think so, no. The short answer is currently it's the best way to do it. Obviously, we've discussed the trainer homologation program more holistically. When you have people at home, you just introduce quite a few more variables to the equation. Which hardware they're on, as an example, if you look to previous editions of the World Championships here at the UCI for esports, we've standardized trainers in the past, which means we've just put everybody on the same hardware. This year, we've taken a step even further with our partners at Elite and MyWhoosh to validate those trainers through more rigorous testing than has previously been done. But there's still quite a few variables when you talk about athletes being at home. The stability of the internet connection, as an example. MyWhoosh has done quite a bit with the local internet service providers here to just stabilize that connection, something we could never ask 200 athletes spread across the globe to do with their home Wi-Fi, for example. So we've just limited the number of variables in a live event like this because there are fewer athletes, there's a single location, and we have quite a bit more resources to throw at those problems in terms of people and attention. Whereas when you're at home, it's just too disparate to do things like that. So to answer your question very simply, I think a live event at the moment is the best way to ensure the authenticity of our discipline at this time. But those things will be able to go into the home user space in the future. And that's the goal that we have as a growing discipline, is to make racing at home the most authentic it possibly can be. One of the unique things about our sport and our discipline is that the barrier to entry is rather low, and you can do it from home. While it's fantastic to bring all the athletes together at these marquee moments, there's no reason we can't host events where people race from home. But there's a lot of work to do between now and that eventual future.
We've spoken about a possible World Tour calendar. Do you envision more live events on that calendar, maybe interspersed throughout the year?
That's a good question. I come from an events background. I come from a sporting background. I would love to see live events all the time. I think they're a sight to behold, quite literally. There's something about being in a stadium and being in an arena with other fans and with the athletes themselves that I think is a unique experience for human beings to go through. So I will always promote live events. I just think it's a fantastic way to engage with sport and with other people. For esports as a discipline, again, one of the unique opportunities we have is to have legitimate racing more frequently or perhaps with lower costs because we can race at home. So I think in the future, yes, you will see more live events. The current cadence is 1 per year at the minute. Mm-hmm. So yes, that number will increase, but I don't want to make any claims to say that all of the events or all of the sanctioned racing in the future will have to be at live events. I think you will see a very significant portion of sanctioned racing be done from home as we start to solve some of the problems I touched on a moment ago. But there will always be a place for live events. And I think it's very valuable for the discipline and for the athletes and for commercial partners and things like that to bring everything together in a live event setting, certainly.
So one of the problems that has plagued of sport of cycling in general is doping. Can you discuss the anti-doping strategies that are being utilized here for this live event? Specifically, have the athletes been tested prior to their arrival here? Are they going to be tested here? Are they going to be tested post-event? How many? Can you give me more details?
Sure. We've partnered with the ITA, as we always do for our World Championships and many of the other events that we use them for. I can say there's more anti-doping testing being done for this event than any previous edition of an Esports World Championship, which, to be clear, has always had anti-doping as part of the program. The UCI would never allow a World Championship to occur without anti-doping involved. I can't speak to the numbers specifically or the cadence at which the athletes are tested, simply because as an independent body, we don't unduly influence the ITA and tell them who to test or when to test. That's their decision to make. I can say confidently that a significant portion of the racing field will be tested either prior to, during, shortly thereafter, or in the days following. That's all part of the program, as pretty traditional in cycling. I don't know the number off the top of my head, and I don't know who the athletes will be or when they will be chosen. That's all done by the ITA, and it's done that way intentionally, so nobody can unduly influence that process. It's been independent for years, and it will remain that way. But yes, anti-doping will be a part of this event, and there will be more anti-doping controls here than we've ever had in cycling esports before.
So we know that all of the trainers are standardized. The positions on the stage are set positions per athlete. Have those trainers and the athletes, is that a random process? Is it something that's been controlled so that there is no bias as to where the trainers are and the athletes are?
Very good question. Yes, it has been controlled, and no, there is no bias in that process. What we've done in conjunction with MyWhoosh's is that they have made, from a broadcast decision, the location of the athletes on the stage. Certain athletes in the center versus on the edges, certain nationalities, all of the different decisions that go into fantastic television broadcasts. They made the decision on which athlete is stationed in which location on the stage. Without knowing who is at each location, we as the UCI have taken the number of stations available and the 30 trainers available to us, and we randomly assigned trainers to stations. So it was two decisions made in complete isolation from one another. We as the UCI had a random draw to assign trainers to stations. MyWhoosh has then drawn athletes to those stations, and again, completely independently from our decision. And so the athletes will walk up to their station with a randomly selected trainer. There's no favoritism, or there's no way that anybody could have even known which athlete is on which trainer until we randomly drew them.
We talk about doping. One of the issues that always comes up with cycling esports is weight doping. Can you discuss the weigh-in process for the event?
Yeah, certainly. I think from a verification standpoint, obviously our discipline is beholden to height and weight. It's very important to just how the publishers work, how the math works in the game. So prior to the race tomorrow, I think we're looking at 10 or 12 hours prior to the race. All of the athletes will be weighed in. They will weigh in their race kit, socks, shorts, jerseys. They will weigh in twice on medical grade scales. Between those two scales, the average will be taken. So if there's a 0.1 kilogram difference, they'll split the difference. Same with their height. They will be measured by staff here, not by themselves. And then from that moment forward, we as the UCI with MyWhoosh will control the riders' accounts. They will not be given access to their account on the day of the race. They will also not be allowed to touch the computers or the keyboards or in any way, shape, or form have an interaction with the game platform other than the handlebars of their bikes, the seat, and their pedals. We'll enter that weight and height into the game and control it from there. So it should be as legitimate as humanly possible. I think there's a lot of conversation in our discipline about the ideal time to weigh athletes in to avoid any sort of influence to that process. We don't want athletes putting themselves in any precarious positions. So that can be visited, but for this year, it will be done, like I said, those 8 to 10 hours prior to, and it will be totally under our control. The athletes will have no influence or ability to influence it at all.
The racers make the race. Will the racers feel as if the best all-around racer wins the rainbow stripes tomorrow?
That's a fair question. I think so. The only caveat to that would be the strategy that will influence the race, right? Some nations have greater representation than others. There are more athletes from certain nations through the very fair qualification pathway. So team tactics may come into play for some of those well-represented nations. I feel if you were a very strong sprinter, you perhaps have more opportunity to score points than the pure climbers. But as we saw through the semifinals, That doesn't always hold true either. There's still opportunity for the climbers or the all-arounders or the puncheurs. From a hardware, software, data perspective, it will be a fair race. There will be significant growth in the fairness and the integrity of the sport because we're in a live venue, because we have greater control over all of those variables that we touched on. So I can say confidently that all athletes should leave the stage tomorrow feeling that a race was hosted fairly and they had the same opportunity as every other athlete. Let's see whose legs show up tomorrow.
I have two more questions.
Sure.
Obviously, we're all hoping for a great event, and we're looking to crown two great champions. On Sunday after the race, you'll still be the UCI's esports coordinator. What's the first thing on your desk?
Send the jerseys to the riders. Oh, no, they'll be here. They can take them home. We have the jerseys. I forgot. The first thing on my desk after this, well, I start to work on the Olympic proposal pretty quickly thereafter. I think we'll go through a pretty natural process. To answer the question very simply, we as people who plan events for a living, if I could do this 24 hours later, do it a second time 24 hours later, there's improvements we would make, right? There's things we'll learn on Saturday that we just couldn't predict. And so we'll go through a debrief process with our partners, both MyWhoosh and everybody else who's at the table. We'll take the key learnings from it. We'll certainly speak with the athletes and see what they liked, what they didn't like, what we can improve. And I think maybe not on Monday. I'll spend some time with my family on Monday. But for me, the most important thing to do after a monumentous event like this is learn. We want to learn from this. We want to improve. I make no claim that Saturday will be perfect. I certainly don't think what happens on Saturday is what's going to happen for the next two editions either. We'll have to evolve the sport. That's, again, one of the most exciting things about sport in general, but about esports specifically, is we can have quick iteration and quick evolution. So there will be key learnings for us and for the athletes on Saturday. And my first job is going to be to implement those learnings into whatever it is that we do next.
When the lights go down after the event on Saturday, what will define success for you as the UCI's esports coordinator, as the UCI holistically, and as a fan of esports?
Success will be defined by all the athletes had the same opportunity to win the jersey. I think if we can have a discipline with as much integrity and fairness as possible, we'll let the athletes decide, as the UCI always does, let the athletes decide who's best on the day with their legs. So from my perspective, success is a fair championship and every athlete being afforded the same opportunity to win the coveted jersey. From there, I think exciting racing is always fun to see. I'm a sports fan at the end of the day. So maybe a nail-biting finish where the last point scoring opportunity makes the decision for us. But that's secondary. I think that the most important thing from my perspective is that every athlete feels that they were given the same opportunity as the others on the stage to win the jersey.
Thank you, Jacob.
Of course, anytime.
Well, there's certainly a lot to process there from Jacob Fraser, and I thank him for taking time from his very busy schedule here in Abu Dhabi. And the following is my interview with Matt Smithson, and I hope that you enjoy the insight that he provides into the event as well.
What's the one thing that's going to blow people away about this event?
It's not just one. I think it's many things. It's going to be the fact that all the athletes are there, from all around the world in one place. I think it's the verification that we've done with the trainers and the quality of what we're doing. But when you get to see the show, you're going to see the lighting, the pods, every aspect of it. It's something that, it's not something that's been thrown together. There's not one section of this that hasn't had months of planning, months of thought put into it. From what's been great is we've had people in our business that are from the gaming side of the world. They're not bike riders like me. So we're bringing that aspect of the bright lights, the shows, the confetti, all of that is coming to the event. And just when you see the screens of the lights and when you walk in, Chris, and the thought that's done in them with pods, and that's going to blow people away. But as I'd refer back to, at the end of the day, it's going to be a cool bike race. The number one thing, I think the whole show is people going to walk away and go, that was awesome.
And you mentioned that you don't want to bring outdoor cycling into this.
Yeah.
And you speak about the show, like the next evolution of cycling esports has to be an event that engages the fan.
Yeah.
Is that going to happen?
Yeah, look, it will engage the fans at home because we've thought through the bike race. I think, is the first aspect of that. And as much as we don't want to bring outdoor cycling indoors, there's still an aspect of that in esports. And I think for the next few iterations of what we're all doing, I think that's probably where we'll be. And we need to vary the courses and vary the point systems and vary the results and open it up. I think our first step is open it up to a wider range of athletes, firstly. And I think that's the first step. And I think we've probably achieved that in year one. I think eventually, though, we've got to end up somewhere where we're engaging in some form of gamification in it. And it's maybe not just an athletic battle. I don't know what that looks like at the moment. And that's not something I foresee probably in year two. Who knows what year three will look like? And that's my personal view. I'm not saying that's an overall sporty view or my whoosh view, but I think at some point we have to bring bonus points through some form of gamification. Learning the game at some point to be a true e-sport has to be able to give some form of value to the result. Does that make sense?
It does. It's, one of the ways that MyWhoosh differentiates itself from the other platforms is that there's not a lot of gamification. So doing that in a way that's going to maintain the nature of cycling and not make it too gimmicky like a Mario Kart, but also do it in a way where I've noticed that you, with the 3 stages and the way that you've really thought out, and it's definitely going to be a test of all-rounders. And if you're ready to imply gamification in that way, then I could see how that would be very engaging to the fan and to the athletes as well.
Yeah, what I would like, I think certainly in this year one, and it's why I think we've gone to so much effort with the trainers and the validation of it, is that I want people to go, those numbers are real. I want them to be very clear about those numbers. And the athletes at home and people on the couch might be able to say, that race went like that. I can do that. I can achieve that. And it might be stage one, and some of these guys, and the ladies might hit 1,000, 1,100 watts in that. Some of the men might hit 1,500 watts. And what can happen is people at home will go, I'm going to try that segment on MyWhoosh. I can now relay myself to the elite athletes of our sport. And so I think the fan engagement and the clarity on reality becomes true. And in the past, and this is not about any other platform that's done it the way they've done it for their reasons. But as a fan, I don't know that those numbers are real. Someone's in their garage at home. I know there's great verification out there, but this is the first time that those numbers we know are real.
Yeah, I think that's obviously a very big thing. This event is the first in a lot of different ways, and the standardization of trainers is at the very basic level. And the fact that you're taking this initiative certainly is a huge step forward. When you think about that, there are a number of other ways that MyWhoosh has legitimized the professionalism of cycling esports. So we're seeing athletes now that are racing on the platform full time. And this World Championships is another step towards legitimization. Do you see any other ways that MyWhoosh would go towards legitimizing the professionalism? And we were speaking about not the World Championships, other forms of racing, bringing in team aspects, you partnered up with SuperTry, you're aware of their business model with the franchises. You've made huge progress with the World Championships. The next step, in my vision, is to make it so that these athletes can actually be pros in this sport.
Yeah, look, my personal vision is to be able to be part of bringing that to our sport. And I've worked on a number of options where MyWhoosh could probably fit into that I suppose buoy is the right word. I think as a sport, we very much have a build up to an event, and then it all sort of goes away, and we lose that focus of the spectator. I think what MyWhoosh has done really well is we've legitimized esport racing. I think tick one, our validation, our verification, our weekly events, the prize money, all of that's under control. I think we do that quite well. The second piece is then, how do you bring in the professionalism? Now, I don't mean professionalism as in riders earning money from the platform. We've done that. But how do we bring in the fan engagement and the professionalism that, as UAE team members have into our world? How do we bring the team element? Is it team ownership? Is it, a series event? Is it all those sort of things? Now, I've written up a number of variants and drafts on how MyWhoosh may be able to do that. I don't know whether we will get there in the short term. I believe we will in the long term. I think coming out of the success, hopefully of this weekend, I think we'll have a clearer path to that. I would like a longer term path to the finals next year, and maybe those sort of things are incorporated. I believe that there's going to be, if we're going to the Olympics, I think that there needs to be part of this somewhere for esports and Olympics. There needs to be more clarity around, consistency of racing. So, yeah, do we want to get there? Yes. Do I have a clear path at the moment? I'm closer than I've ever been, but the answer is no.
How big is it a priority?
Good question. It's a big priority in esports. However, as a platform, I need to engage everybody. And so I'm not saying there's any trade-off there at all. I just want to make sure we don't end up down a path of being, I want to be the best esports platform. I want to be the best community platform. I want to engage mums and dads and kids and people to ride bikes. Okay, so number one from me and MyWhoosh is accessibility for people around the world to enjoy riding their bikes and to entertain them. So it certainly isn't above that priority, but under that, it's a fairly high priority for us, yes.
If that professionalization involves multiple platforms, world tour rankings, kind of like the model that we have now in the road, is that a vision that you could see MyWhoosh embracing?
I'd like to see the details on it. So I feel that there's a lot of things to be sorted out, and it's not an us versus them or them versus us question. My concern of that model is the difference in platforms, the effect on the athletes, the different management of the events, the focus of some businesses versus other businesses on esports, the damage that could be done if one platform really didn't care for it but needed it for a user base versus another platform that is solely based around esports. So I'm certainly not averse to it. What I would like to understand in order to make a clear decision in what does it really look like? How does the verification at a quality look? Where's the prize money and balance there for the athletes? And this isn't a competition, but if the athletes are going down this path, they need to be as equally rewarded across platforms. So there's that aspect here as well. There's the different dynamics, there's the different forces, there's the different management of this. So am I averse to these conversations? No, and I'd love to get to the table with whether that's the UCI or whether that's the other platforms and figure out how we make it work then. But I have some reservations on how it could be successful.
You mentioned performance verification. This World Championships is the first that has verified every single semifinal athlete.
Yep.
So you've made big strides there. What's next on the game plan for your performance verification?
Predictive modeling is where we'll start to go a little bit more. So we'll be using more data and more. We've got a lot of predictive modeling within the game now with the verification. And we need to remember that verification for the elite athletes is not difficult. The verification for Joe Average, that's the hard part. The hard part is to the knee to verify you and your Lee. How hard are we trying? Are we sandbagging? Is our equipment not reading correctly? That's where the difficulty in verification is. And I quite often get frustrated when we talk verification across the board. I don't mean that with you. I mean across esports, where everybody concentrates on verifying that the top riders are the top riders. That's easy. Well, they've been around a while. Everyone's got data on it. Everyone knows what's going on there. We've got an athlete here that really hasn't raced much on our platform racing this weekend. But there's enough data out there on him that we all know it's legit, right? And we've got a live environment, so it's not a problem. But for us, it's really, really drilling down to the individual athlete, understanding what their capabilities are, understanding, if they do this, what could they be capable of? What category could they be in? I want to add an indexation to the routes that then changes my categorization as driven by my verification. So it could be a hilly, punchy course, and one rider might be in category 2 for that, and on a 15-kilometer climb course, they might be in category 4. So I want to get down to that detail, but I can only make those decisions when my verification data is very clear and correct. So we're always working on it. We're working heavily in the AI space as well with our verification. And the modeling and things that can be done there and done so quickly is absolutely amazing. And we'll have a digital or esport fingerprint on our athletes within 6 to 12 months that is, better where we're at today.
How will the verification work for the live event final?
Live event final is where we're going to run a normal verification system, first and foremost, that we normally do. We've added a few pieces where myself and the UCI have access to live stream and live data as it happens, comparisons of primaries and secondaries and heart rate and pedaling dynamics, and those things are all available in real time for this weekend. But we'll run our normal verification system. In reality, it doesn't matter this weekend. Everyone's in front of us. We can see what they're doing, but we're still running full verification, and we'll go through the results and look at any anomalies on that in the future. But when they're live, it's probably not as important as when they're in their garages.
As would the real-time verification, it wouldn't be as important, I would think, because the athletes are right in front of you. You don't intend to pull anybody from the race if there's an issue. You just have that data that's available. You have the technology that's available.
What we're actually using it for more than anything is if we have some issues during the event, if trainers are misreading, if somebody loses a connection and they continue on using their secondary power meter, because we've got things like that built in the game, and so that we can keep the show running and the data is legitimate. And we can see it all over the dashboards, all verified after the event. So it's more as a fallback than anything else that we'll be able to clear picture. If something goes wrong, we'll have a clear picture on where the athletes were, how they were performing, all those types of things, and we can make decisions from there.
So we're sitting here, it's a couple of days before the event, right? There's obviously been a huge lead up to this. I know I've asked you this question before, I'm going to ask you again, because we have a better perspective. What would you do differently for the second version than you've done for this one?
Not a lot at the moment. I would like to have better engagement with the federations from the start, and I think we will get that next year. Now we've started to build that relationship. I think that the fear of MyWhoosh has gone away from the athletes, so I think getting the athletes on board early and working with them, I think certainly is something that will be easier next year. I'm not saying that it's something that change, but that'll be better. I think that I would look to move the date next year. I think that we made a decision this year around not knowing the best time to do this. We tried to fit into a lot of parts of the cycling calendar, and I think that we didn't address the fact that there is a winter season around the world, and that's probably dictates esports bigger than it, at any time of the year. So I think the date, in answering the question directly, I would probably change the date.
What would you change it to?
I would probably go to the first week or two in December.
So that would mean skipping a year, basically.
Well, no. So with next year, given the choice, and this has not been very clear. This has not been discussed with the management or with UCI at this point in time. This is my personal thing. I think the best time to do it for us would be probably second week of December next year.
Okay, so it's just a little bit over a year from now.
Yeah, 6 weeks later than what we've done it. Just give people a little bit of time to engage into their esports season. I think this year was a tough year for federations. So the date may not be as big a drama next year, but federations only have the Olympics every 4 years. And we lost a lot of time and momentum with the Olympics this year, with the federations and the UCI, understandably, by all means, being taken across to the preparation, the delivery and all that of the Olympics and the aftermath of the Olympics and that sort of stuff. So there was a solid 6 or 8 weeks there where we probably couldn't engage as much as we would without the Olympics. And maybe that's swaying by wanting to push it out a little bit longer. So next year without that, we might still be okay.
So the event's almost here. What will your definition of success be when the last racer crosses the line on Saturday?
The athletes have a smile on their face.
Well, we know at least 2 of them will.
Correct. Look, the definition for success for me is not anything apart from our team at MyWhoosh seeing the rewards of the labour that everybody else hasn't seen. I really want them, the team behind the scenes, the guys that do the coding, the guys that do the development, and the ladies, the business intelligence team, the marketing team, the PR teams, my own events team. I want them to sit in their chairs and smile, and I want them to say, we were part of it. I want them to feel what I feel in the excitement, the lead up, and I know that you feel the same about this. And they haven't got to feel that yet because they haven't seen all of their work in one place. So success is our team sees something absolutely amazing that they're full of.
So you mentioned that there's this potential lull after this event, which is, natural, right? There's a lot of build up for it. It's going to be a great event. I mean, we mentioned the Olympics. Is that something that is on your radar?
Look, I think it's on everyone's radar. Anyone involved in any form of esports, whether it's physical esports like us or gaming esports like FIFA or Fortnite, I'm sure everyone's thinking, how do we get to the Olympics? At this stage, all we know is that Saudi have got the Olympics for the next 12 years. There's a million rumours out there. I've had nothing formal from anybody apart from the same discussions and sure that everybody at this event has heard or not heard or one story or rumour. So sure, it's on the radar, but until we've got something more concrete, we really, really don't know.
Any other elite racing plans to engage those athletes, to engage the fans in that period of time?
Yeah, if we go back to what we spoke about earlier and trying to get something a little bit different off the ground, I've got plans. I'm working on those. I can't commit whether we'll get there in that period of time. We've got Super Tri coming for us, World Championships, and that's in April. But that's very much our platform, their event, where this is, we're doing this on behalf of the UCI in reality. So we've got that coming up. We've got lots of stuff happening within the platform, of course. There's lots of, improvements with our head of physics and game dynamics is moving here full time. So that's going to lift us to another level within the business. So there's no backing off. I've employed more people in the last 3 weeks than I have in the last 3 years. So it's not about a lull or anything like that. It's the realization is we're seeing the future. We're seeing the rewards of the hard work that's happened over the last 4 years, and we're really just looking forward to whatever we can make of this.
You mentioned that it's a UCI event and that you're partners with that, and we've spoken at length about your commitment to the sport. How would you characterize their commitment to the sport and the collaborative process that you've been working on together?
Yeah, look, it's been fantastic. Jacob and Sam have been our key contacts over there. I talk to Jacob every couple of days, whether it's a casual, hey, this is happening, just letting you know. So it's been everything from a real business relationship contractually to hey mate, just letting you know such and such. And they're not things I need to tell him. He doesn't need to tell me, but they're things in the best interest of getting the show on the road. Certainly with the athletes, we've been in very much contact around, I hope this person's coming. Yeah, well, we'll do this, we'll do that. So that's been really good. I couldn't fault what the UCI have done at this point at all for us to support us along the way. There's been no, I wouldn't say there's been any, aggression or, arguments or anything like that. I think we've all been saying we just want to make this the best event that we can. I think they've been very flexible and given us a lot of way to create and make this event. They've supported us where we've needed support. They've been fantastic at facilitating the things like the anti-doping with ITA. They've been great at assisting in, how we manage the athletes and working with the federations. And so they have certainly done their job and more. I think we've done our job and more as well to deliver what we're delivering. But I wouldn't change any of how that's gone together. I hope Jacob feels the same.
What can you tell me that other people don't know about this event?
The stage is awesome. The event's great. I don't think there's anything that you don't know. I really don't. I just think, just the sheer, the only thing I can come back to is just, I'd love for you to see and understand the work that, it's easy for me to be the face and to talk to you about something you and I love. Yeah. But I'd love for you to be able to see the work that some of this team have put in to get this to here. Like one of our guys that works for me, Sim, he's been working 20 hours a day transporting trainers and testing computers and cabling and just the effort that's been put in the back end. That's what, that's what I'd like to see. That's the thing that you don't know what to do, mate.
I can just imagine all the work. It's hard to fathom, but in the end, it's the racers that make the race. Are we going to get to the best all-around athlete as a world champion?
Yes, yeah. I'm pretty confident that we will. The interesting thing will be how much thought the athletes have now put into this event versus the fitness characteristic of the event. So how many of them are going in with a plan with some teammates? How many are going in with their own plan to break it up? I was very, very interested in how some of the racing went in the semi-finals. It was not as I expected at all. I don't know whether there'll be some learnings to that and how the athletes tackle that this time around. But I still think the course, I think the point system, I think the best athlete on the day is going to win. I don't think, no matter what any of them try to do from a team perspective, I don't think they'll influence the true outcome.
Really appreciate it, Matt. Thank you.
All good.
Well, there you have it. From Matt Smithson, the MyWhoosh, and Jacob Fraser, the UCI's esports coordinator, on the eve of the Cycling Esports World Championships. Emma and I appreciate your support of the Virtual Velo Podcast. You can follow Emma Martin on Instagram, biking_Emma, and you can follow me on Instagram, the Zamunique, or subscribe to the Zamunique newsletter at thezamunique.com. Thank you, and we'll see you soon for another episode of the Virtual Velo Podcast. Bye.